need to protect ourselves from crime. In today's world, that includes identity theft. It's a serious problem. We all have to protect ourselves.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one works harder to protect you than LifeLock. You even get a $1 million service guarantee. That's security no one can beat. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose when you call LifeLock right now and get 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. That's right, 60 days risk-free. Use promo code NOTME. Order now and get this document shredder to keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free. Don't wait until you become the next victim. Call 1-800-918-3128 for 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free and get a document shredder free. Use promo code NOTME. Call 1-800-918-3128 now.
We, the people of the United States,
in order to form a more perfect union,
establish justice,
ensure domestic tranquility,
provide for the common defense,
promote the general welfare,
and secure the blessings of liberty
to ourselves and our posterity,
do ordain and establish this Constitution
for the United States of America.
My immediate feeling was to kill him, so he will never hurt anybody again.
We don't identify child abuse victims or their relatives to protect the family. So in talking to the victim's father, we're obscuring his likeness, though he believes the face of the accused, 18-year-old Raymond Frolander, is getting too much publicity. The victim's father doesn't regret his reaction after walking in on Frolander allegedly abusing his boy, but he isn't bragging about it either. He is, however, bragging about the victim, his son.
My son saved Raymond. Raymond was motionless on my floor. I went to my kitchen to get a butcher knife. My son stopped me. My son came in front of me and saved his attacker's life.
The father says he treated Frolander like one of his own and says police reports that Frolander was abusing the boy for the last 3 years are wrong. He claims there was an attempt 3 years ago, but then Frolander left town and only recently returned. The victim never told anyone about the attempt, so Dad knew nothing until he witnessed the sexual battery.
Most of us reach a point in our daily lives where we find ourselves frustrated with an inability to do anything about injustice, whether it's specifically aimed at us or society in general. We are by and large good people who believe in the rule of law. But there are times when emotion drives us to take the law into our own hands, exactly what that Central Florida father did when he discovered his child being attacked. And the case is making noise with how local law enforcement reacted. Welcome to MidPoint, criminal defense attorney Daniel Hockheiser. Daniel, always a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Here we go. This one has everybody around the nation talking, I think more so because they have seen Raymond Frolander, the young man here, the 18-year-old young man, and what happened to him after the father took hold of him here. Is it really that shocking, though, that police let the father go?
Well, it is. I think it takes a lot of courage for a police chief to make the decision that this chief made to not pursue criminal charges against the father who severely assaulted this alleged child molester. I mean, the critics will say that the father and this police chief are acting as judge, jury, and executioner without any fact-finding.
Apparently, though, he caught him. Let me go ahead and, for those who have not heard it yet, here is the 911 call that came in from the father that night regarding the young man getting a hold of his son. Listen up. Okay, I'm told we don't have it. It was, I just walked in and found a grown man molesting my son, and I got him in a bloody puddle for you, officer. I want that pedophile gone. He was molesting my son. I walked in. He was out. He had his pants down. I didn't proceed to ask any more questions, sir. Isn't that just like catching someone in the act, though?
It is, but you have to rely on the word of the father and the testimony of the father, which I have no reason to doubt. And I think the police chief's decision not to pursue charges is driven by a sense of fairness and justice. The criminal law generally makes decisions about liability in terms of is the act more like something we would do, the good people, or more like something they would do, the criminals? And this act of beating up a child, a person found molesting your child, seems like a reasonable response to this horrific situation.
Is that the key here, the words you just used, reasonable response, and that is how the legal community and the police will look at something like this?
Well, the legal term of art is justification in terms of whether the father should face charges as to the beating. So probably a cleaner way to dispose of this matter would be to have a grand jury investigation and present evidence to a grand jury and let a grand jury hear testimony and decide whether the father was justified or not in beating up this alleged molester.
That area of Florida has certainly got an awful lot of attention thanks to Stand Your Ground and what's happened in the last couple of years here. That doesn't apply in this case, does it?
No, it doesn't apply, and this is a situation where this is a defense of a third party, not defending yourself. So this father's defending a son who he observes being molested by a man. So practically speaking, in Florida, which is a conservative state by and large, practically speaking, even if you did press charges against the father, there's probably no Florida jury that would convict him.
As an attorney, though, would you not be concerned that something like this sends a message down the line that, of course, we're talking about this was where he caught the individual in the act, but then everything starts to stretch a little bit when things happen in cases like this, and it gets a little further away from the actual epicenter of what happened here. A little bit of a concern, though, I would imagine.
Well, anytime you have vigilante justice, if I may refer to it that way, it's of concern because you have people taking the law into their own hands. In a perfect world, taking emotion out of it, probably what should have happened is the father should have held the attacker, called 911 and waited for the police to handle it, but he didn't, and he apparently beat up this suspect. And the feds move into this to do their own investigation if the Florida authorities don't pursue this.
You're way ahead of me on the question, so I'm not even going to ask. You got the answer right there. About a minute and a half that we have left here. R.J. Reynolds hit with a $23 billion punitive damage award based on a case where an individual died from cigarette smoking. A Pensacola jury awards the widow nearly $24 billion in this lawsuit. This $23 billion based on a case where an individual died from cigarette smoking. A Pensacola jury awards the widow nearly $24 billion in this lawsuit. This $23 billion, while it really sounds interesting and huge, this isn't going to stand, is it?
I don't expect it to, and I haven't seen any experts or precedent to suggest that it would be sustained by the appellate courts. I think the jury wanted
that are awarded here. Big tobacco doesn't really seem to change much of what they do.
Well, I think this is much like the war on drugs when you're dealing with harder drugs like cocaine and heroin. It's all demand driven. So as long as you have millions of people who are going to buy cigarettes, there are going to be companies that are going to profit from that. And so I agree with you. I don't think it's going to stop from that. And so I agree with you. I don't think it's going to stop.
Although we should point out that the precedent still leaves room for a punitive come out of this, correct? Some kind of dollar.
Oh, yes, the verdict won't be wiped out entirely, but the court will look at whether the punitive damages are reasonable in light of all the factors. These awards aren't supposed to put a company out of business, and $23.6 billion seems a little far-fetched for a single plaintiff.
We'll see if it sends any message whatsoever, and I'm with you. I sincerely doubt it. Daniel Hochheiser, thanks so much for joining us, Dan. We'll talk to you again. All right, next up, sometimes we say things we wish we hadn't. This comes down to Ron Paul. We'll talk about that and more when MidPoint continues.
Pat Boone here with a word about bank safety. Do you think your money is safe in the bank? Don't bank on it. A generation ago, bank accounts felt secure and they paid interest. This encouraged the virtue of thrift and saving. But today, bank accounts pay virtually nothing, and they've shifted from low risk to high risk. For example, Did you know your money deposited in most U.S. banks could be subject to limited withdrawal and even confiscation? Oh, yes. And that's just the first of 19 risks explained in a new white paper entitled Don't Bank on It. You still think your bank deposits are safe? You better get this vital new Don't Bank on It white paper now. Call the number on the screen or visit SwissAmerica.com, the gold standard. Learn how simple it is to become your own banker today.
Is your property a jungle choked with overgrown saplings and brush? Take back your land with a DR Field and Brush Mower. Nothing stops the DR. Thick grass and weeds, out-of-control brush, briars, or canes, even 3-inch thick trees are no match for America's favorite brush mower. Lock it in and rip it up. Clear it out, clean it up, and rediscover the land you've lost. And with optional attachments, the self-propelled DR Field with optional attachments, the self-propelled DR Field and Brush Mower converts into a finish mower. A sit up and rediscover the land you've lost. And with optional attachments, the self-propelled DR Field and Brush Mower converts into a finish mower, a snow thrower, a portable chipper, or a grater blade. It's a field and brush cutter and so much more.
Call 1-800-456-2023 for a free buyer's guide and DVD. You'll learn how you can try it. drathome.com.
It happens in the parking lot. When you're parked on the street, it'll even happen in your own garage. It'll even happen in your own garage. A scratch can happen anywhere. And who has hundreds to pay? It happens in the parking lot. When you're parked on the street, it'll even happen in your own garage. A scratch can happen anywhere. And who has hundreds to pay a body shop? Well, now you can keep your money and get rid of expensive scratches easily with Scratchdini, the remarkable all-new professional strength formula that makes surface scratches disappear. It couldn't be easier. Just use a tiny bit of our revolutionary formula and millions of microparticles that gently and effectively remove surface scratches with one easy step. Best of all, it'll work perfectly with any color finish. Guaranteed. You would never intentionally scratch your car, but